WASA Distance Education and PLAR Math. So this is the first week of classes in Term 1B, and this term we are offering for PLAR students the PLAR Math and the PLAR Science by Radio Zoom. So any PLAR students who didn't finish up what you were working on in Term 1A can continue working on the key questions this term. So you're not withdrawn, and you don't have to reapply. If you've applied already for this school year, you just continue on from where you are left off last term. Just continue working and continue to submit your work. The classes for the PLAR Math for this term are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 till 11, and that's Central Standard Time. There are two ways to participate in classes. So the first way, of course, is to participate on radio. You can call into the studio and you will get the audio only. Or you can participate using Zoom, and with Zoom you can call, go online to download the Zoom client, and then you can see the audio, get the audio and the video. So you get to see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. The instructions for joining classes are in your study guide, or you can contact me or your DEC. All PLAR English students are welcome to attend classes. So I should say all PLAR Math students, are welcome to attend classes. So if you're signed up, it doesn't matter how you signed up. If you signed up for radio, Zoom, or if you signed up for IL, it doesn't matter. You can still attend the classes. To contact me, you can use email, phone, or send a message on Facebook, whatever is better for you. And the PLAR English classes from last term are available on YouTube. And the PLAR Math classes from last year are still available on YouTube, but as I record new classes, I will be updating the old classes and changing it to the new classes. Okay, so the classes are still available if you are not working where I'm working during in our classes. You can go and watch those classes. There's very few changes to the material, so the classes will still be helpful for you. So the schedule for this term is a very small schedule again, because we are short-staffed. So the PLAR Science is Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 till 11, and the PLAR Math is Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 till 11. So if you're doing PLAR, this is what you need to look at in the schedule. Okay, for this term, starts obviously today and will actually go until January. So we have 6 weeks of classes before Christmas, the Christmas holidays, and then we have 3 weeks of classes after the Christmas holidays. So the last day for term 1B is January 24th. So we don't finish this term until after the Christmas break. So 6 weeks of classes, as I mentioned before the break. So basically 6 weeks till our Christmas break. And so 6 weeks to get work done and submitted before the break. Just a reminder for students who are taking PLAR this year, we have decided to let students try writing the culminating activity before doing the lessons and key questions. So that's your choice. You don't have to, but if you think, oh, I know this work, I know how to do it, so I'm just going to try the test or culminating activity, basically the same thing. And if you pass the culminating activity, then you don't have to do the lessons and the key questions, and you're finished that subject and you just move on to the next one. If you're not successful with the culminating activity, then you will have to go through the lessons and complete the key questions, and then you'll write another culminating activity after the lesson work is finished. So you don't just get one chance to do the culminating activity. You get, if you do it first, then you get another chance after you do the lessons. Okay, so just keep that in mind. In your lessons, you will notice that there are two types of questions. We have support questions and we have key questions. The support questions are the questions that are scattered throughout the lessons. So as you read through a section of material, there will be a support question for you to practice what you just read. At the end of the lesson, or sure, it's not right at the end, but near the end of the lesson, you will find a section called Answers to Support Questions. So do your support questions, then check the answers at the end of the lesson. Okay. If you're getting all of the answers correct, or most of the answers correct, then you can move on to the key questions. And those are the questions that you submit to me for marking, okay? There are no answers to them, and you will notice that these are the questions that get marks. The support questions do not have marks. So make sure that you submit only the key questions to me. And you should start working on your key questions right away. So as you read a section, do the support question, then you do the key question right away and submit them as soon as you're finished. Don't wait. Don't hold on to them. Ways to submit your work, there are several. The first way is to give it to your DEC, who will send it out to us in Sioux Lookout. If your learning center is closed or your DEC is out of town, then you can submit your own work, and there are a couple of ways of doing that. So if you have access to a scanner, you can scan and email your own work, and you can send it to studentwork@nnec.on.ca, and make sure you CC it to me. My email's on the cover page of your lessons and the study guide. Or if you have access to a fax machine, you can fax your work to us. If you're submitting your own work, be sure to write your name, the subject, and your teacher's name on your work. Okay, that way we know who's sending the work, because we have had instances where we have received work and there's been no name on it, so we have no clue where it came from or who submitted it. So if you want your work to be marked and sent back to you, you need to let us know who you are. Make sure your name is on your work. If you don't have access to a scanner or a fax machine, then you can use your smartphone to submit work. You can either take photos of your work, or you can scan your work with the built-in scanner on your phone, and then you can either email it to that same email address, and of course CC it to me, or you can send it on Facebook Messenger. Okay, so even if you don't have a DEC or your learning center is closed for whatever reason, you can still submit your work. If you are in Sioux Lookout, or you come to Sioux Lookout frequently, you can use our outdoor mailbox, which is located at the side of the building in the parking lot facing the post office. So you can slip your work in there. If you're here on a weekend or something, you can put it in there. If you're here during the week when the office is open, you can knock on the front door and give it to whoever answers the door. Okay, the main door is still locked, but if you knock on the door, someone will answer the door and you can hand in your work to them. You can also use Google Docs to submit your work. Okay, do your work in Google Docs and then send me the link. Share the link with me so that I can mark your work, or you can use Google Classroom to do your work. Okay, so there are lots of different ways to submit your work. Something else you should know is that you can win prizes. So at the end of every term, so we just did our draw last week for term 1A. So at the end of every term, WASA will have two draws. One for students who earned a credit, and one for students who submit work. So if you're submitting work and you earn a credit, you get more chances to win. So be sure to submit your work to your teacher to be entered into the draws. And so students will have their names entered for each lesson they submit. So if you submit all 5 lessons and your test or your culminating activity, then that's 6 chances that go in for you to win a prize. We don't know yet what the prize is going to be for this term, but it should be something good. We'll let you know when we find out. Okay, so we're going to have a quick look at your study guide. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time here because I'm going to just highlight some things, but you can have a look through your study guide at your leisure. And the important thing, the first important thing here is that the contact information on the front. So the Zoom link is there. the meeting ID and the passcode. So this is everything that you need to know for joining a Zoom class. If you're just joining by radio, the studio number is there, and then our classes are broadcast on radio, television, online radio. I'm not sure if these are all still working or not, to be honest with you. I have to check that out. Then the numbers for contacting, the office number, the fax number, and then my emails, my Facebook, and my YouTube are all there. So all that information, that contact information, is on the front page of your study guide. Okay, so welcome to PLAR Math. So PLAR, if you're not already familiar with, stands for, it's an acronym for Prior Learning Assessment and Recognition. Okay, so basically, PLAR is a program. It's not a course. It's a program that will assist you in getting your grade 9 and 10 credits. In this case, your grade 9 and 10 math credits. So if you have your grade 9 math credit but not your grade 10, or if you're missing both and you do the PLAR math and pass it, then you will get your credits for grade 9 and 10 math, and you could get 2 extra credits depending on how many credits you are short. So PLAR is just basically a fast track to getting your grade 9 and 10 credits, and it's all based on the fact that you have prior learning and recognition. So there's things that you've learned since you've left high school, and so based on that, you can get credits without doing complete courses. Okay, and you can read through that on your own. Evaluation for the PLAR, in each lesson there are support questions and key questions. You will be evaluated on your answers to the key questions, as I mentioned before. So this is for students who choose to do the lessons. If you do the culminating activity, then you don't need to do any of the key questions unless you fail the culminating activity, of course. So as I mentioned already, support questions help you practice the skills that are taught throughout the course, and they prepare you for the key questions. Do not submit support questions. Keep that in mind, because if you do, I'll just send them back to you and say the answers are at the end of the lesson. Key questions are the questions that you submit. They will be used to assess your achievement of the lesson's expectations. You must answer the key questions for each lesson and submit them to your teacher or the DEC. Your answers will show how well you have understood the ideas and mastered the skills. They will also show how well you communicate your ideas. In your lesson booklet, there is a place for you to put the answers to the key questions, so you do not have to use lined paper or extra paper. You can write directly on the paper that's provided. There is space there. If there's not enough space for you to show your work, then you can use lined paper and attach it when you send out your work. So the lessons help prepare you for basically the assessment, the culminating activity or the test. In most cases now we hand out the culminating activity, because the culminating activity does not need to be supervised. You can take it at home and do it at home. So at the end of each week, if you're doing the lessons, make sure that you send all work that you have completed. Key questions should be faxed or sent out as soon as you get them done. You do not have to wait until you've completed the whole lesson. And students may attempt the culminating activity, this is what I mentioned already, before the lessons. If the attempt is successful, if there's a pass, it is not necessary to complete the key questions. It is very important that I have a contact number, an email, Facebook, or whatever where I can reach you or leave a message. If you are able, please give me a call as soon as you get your materials. Okay, submitting your work. We've already gone through this at the beginning of the class, so I'm not going to go through that again. Basically the same things. Delivery, so we've got 2 classes, 2 live 1-hour radio Zoom classes each week, so Tuesdays and Thursdays for 9 weeks. Okay, so in term 1A was PLAR English, so the PLAR Math was available through IL only. Term 1B, November to January, Again, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 11 Central Standard Time. In Term 2A, it will be IL again only, and then in Term 2B, we will be doing the PLAR Math Radio Zoom again Tuesdays and Thursdays, but this time from 11 till 12. And in the summertime, it's IL only. There are no broadcasts for any subjects. You are encouraged to call in and participate in the broadcast. If you cannot be at the Learning Center, you should try to listen at home or at work if this is possible. As I mentioned, the classes are recorded and uploaded to YouTube, so you can view the recorded classes as well. Remember, all PLAR math students, not just the Radio Zoom students, but all PLAR math students can watch the classes. So this is a tentative class schedule. Sometimes we go a little bit faster, sometimes we go a little bit slower, but just to give you an idea of how much time we'll be spending on each topic. So lesson 1 is the longest lesson. There's a lot of material there, a lot of basic material there that we need to go through before we go on to lessons 2, 3, 4, and 5. So lesson 1 is a very important lesson. It's the foundation for everything else we're going to be learning. So everything you learn in lesson 1, you will be using in the other lessons. So again, lesson 1 is an important lesson. Make sure you get it. Next page, there's some information on staying organized. Again, I'm not going to read through this for you. You guys can read through this on your own. And then at the bottom of the page is just basically a schedule of what we're going to be covering, the topics, and the key questions. So again, lesson 1 has the most key questions, and then after that there are fewer key questions, again because lesson 1 is a very important lesson. A little bit more about contacting me there on the next page. So this WASA studio number, WASA office number, fax number, and then my email, the student work email, my email, and my Facebook and YouTube. Then on the next few pages, there's a little bit about the G Suite accounts that all WASA students are entitled to. So if you want to use your NNEC schools account as for your email for work or for school or whatever, please contact me so we can make sure that that is set up for you, and I can give you your password. That's a couple pages there. Next has got a little bit of information about on-air protocol, so basically manners when you are in class. On the next few pages. Then a little bit more information about attending classes, listening to recordings, and all those things. Some information about Zoom and IL students, for Zoom and IL students, just where the classes are, where to go for the classes, and the different ways that you can listen and participate in classes. If your internet is really slow, you can request a USB recording of the classes, and then you can use that USB in anything that has a USB port. It can be your TV, your computer, PlayStation, Xbox, or whatever. The classes are saved according to lesson number and key question. So you can easily find, when you look at your key question, whichever one you're stuck on, then you can watch that class. Okay, and then there in the next several pages there's information on how to join a Zoom class. I'm not going to go through that with you. You can go through that on your own. And then the next page is the learning skills rubric. So when you get your mark sheet, at the bottom it will say learning skills, and these are the categories: responsibility, organization, independent work, collaboration, initiative, and self-regulation. So you will either get an NI, SG, or excellent based on your learning skills. So needs improvement, satisfactory, good, or excellent. And this chart basically lets you know what that's all about. All right, so let's get started then now in lesson 1 for the PLAR math. So again, as I said, lesson 1 is the important one. It's where we're talking about two topics, basically integers and fractions, but we use integers and fractions for just about everything that we do in math. So that's why lesson 1 is such an important lesson. And as you can see here, all the contact information right there on the front on the cover page of lesson 1. Okay, so today we are going to take a look at adding integers. Okay, we're going to also take a look at what integers are and take it from there. So your learning goals here on the first page, and then some useful videos. So other than watching the class, if you're not really getting it and you want to try something different, these math antics videos are very good and very educational. I really like these videos, so if you need a little bit of extra help, use those videos. Okay, so for lesson 1, there are some specific terms that you will hear that you may or may not be familiar with. So this is like kind of like your little dictionary at the beginning of the lesson. So a number is negative if it is less than 0. We're going to talk about negative numbers in a little while. Positive number, a number is positive if it is greater than 0. An integer is the whole numbers plus their counterparts less than 0 and 0. The negative integers are those that are less than 0, just like negative numbers, and the positive integers are those that are greater than 0. An operation is a mathematical process. So the most common ones, and the ones that we will be spending most of our time on, are add, subtract, multiply, and divide. We will also be looking at squaring and square roots. Okay? If it isn't a number, it is probably an operation. Sum. The sum is the answer to an addition question. So if I say, what is the sum of 2 and 5? You're going to add those two numbers. The difference is the answer. So sum, addition. Difference is the answer to a subtraction question. So if I say, what's the difference between 4 and 2? You are going to subtract those numbers. So you would do 4 take away 2. Okay, adding is sum is adding. The product is the answer to a multiplication problem, so times. So if I say, what is the product of 5 and 3, you're going to multiply those numbers. The quotient is the answer to a division question. So what if I say, what's the quotient of 10 and 5? You're going to divide those numbers. Okay, so remember, sum, addition, difference, subtraction, product, multiplication, quotient, division. And they're all what we call the answers. So a fraction represents equal parts of a whole or collection. So a fraction, you think of like a fraction of anything, it's a piece of something. So with fractions in math, they are equal pieces. The numerator, this has to do with fractions. These three terms are related. The numerator is the top number of a fraction, and the denominator is the bottom number of a fraction. So a fraction has a top number, which may be 3, and a bottom number, which may be 5. So this is your fraction, 3/5. Invert basically means turn it upside down, or in the opposite position, order, or arrangement. So if you have 1/3, when we invert 1/3, we just flip them top to bottom. So 1/3 inverted is 3/1. A divisor is the number that is being divided by. The dividend is the number that is being divided. Okay, so there are terms for the divisor, or for the numbers in a fraction, so 3 and 5. For the fraction 3/5, that's another way to write division. We'll talk more about that later on. So one number is the divisor, one number is the dividend. So 3/5 as a division will be written as 3 divided by 5. So the number that is being divided by is the divisor. So we're dividing by 5. So 5 is the divisor, and the number that's being divided is the dividend. 3 is the dividend. Okay, that might be a little bit confusing, but like I said, we'll spend some more time with that later on. And the reciprocal of a fraction is when the numerator and the denominator are switched. So when we invert, so again 1/3, when we invert it to 3/1, the 3/1 is what we call the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 1/3 is 3/1. Okay, and these are all terms that we're going to be talking about in lesson 1. Okay, so starting in lesson 1, the first thing you're going to see on first page is operations with integers. So that's on page 4, not page 1, sorry. So then the next few pages talks about adding integers. And then you have support question number 1. Calculate each sum. So sum, of course, means that you're adding. So you're going to add all of these numbers, then check your answers at the back. Okay, so before we actually get into integers, we are going to take a look at, oops, I don't know why I moved that down, negative numbers. So I want to make sure that everybody understands what a negative number is. So a negative number is a number that has a value less than 0. Negative numbers are symbolized by a minus or a dash sign in front of the number. So for example, this, a dash with a 5, means -5, which tells me that, and I look at that, I know that right away that's less than 0. It's below 0. They're represented on the number line to the left of 0, which is the origin. So here's a number line. Here's 0, which we call the origin. And the number 0 is neither positive nor negative. It's just 0. So don't ever say in an answer positive 0 or negative 0. They are both wrong. It's just 0. Okay, so to the left of 0 are our negative numbers. To the right of 0 are our positive numbers. So negative numbers can be whole numbers, like -1, -2, -3. They can be fractions, -1/2, -1/3, -2/5, or they can be decimals, -0.7, -0.5. So they can be anything. They're all negative numbers. Negative numbers have several different interpretations. So some people say, identify it as a number that is less than 0, which we already talked about. So here's 0. Less than 0 are the negative numbers, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and it just goes on. So for every positive number, there is an opposite negative number. It has a counterpart. They're also considered to be numbers that are to the left of 0 on the number line. Okay, so all these numbers to the left of 0 are negative. A number that is the opposite of a positive number, so as I mentioned, all the numbers, all the positive numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, also have an opposite negative number. So +1 and -1 are opposites. +2 and -2 are opposites. +3 and -3 are opposites. +4 and -4 are opposites, etc. So the number 100, +100, -100 is its opposite. Okay, and it represents a loss or an absence of something. So for example, if you're a football fan, a loss of 5 yards in football is -5 yards. Spending $25, that money is gone. That's now -25. 12 degrees below freezing, so on your thermometer, like when I got up this morning and looked outside, it was -6. So 12 degrees below freezing is -12. Okay, so there are lots of ways to represent negative numbers. If you think about sea level, so going below sea level, so here's the water. Here's some land. So below sea level is negative, above sea level is positive. So there's lots of different ways to represent negative and positive numbers. Okay, negative numbers make more sense if we look at a number line. So if you're not quite sure about negative numbers, using a number line or a thermometer, something like that, that you can see them on helps. On a number line, all the numbers to the right of 0 are positive. So this way is positive, this way is negative. So on a number line, so if we move to the left of 0, they become negative. So 0 is not either, remember, so it has to be to the left of 0 in order to be negative. We end up with a negative number by subtracting a larger number from a smaller one. So for example, if we subtracted 9 from 8, it looks like this. So 8 is smaller than 9. If we try to take 9 away from 8, we end up with a negative number. We end up with negative 1. Negative numbers are sometimes confusing when we first learn about them. So the rules can be hard to remember, but like everything else, understanding negative numbers gets easier with practice. So if you say, I don't get this, and you don't do anything about it, then you're not going to get any better at it. You have to read about it, you have to look at it, you have to practice it in order to get better with it. Okay, so those are negative numbers. Now, what is a negative integer? So there is a difference between negative numbers and negative integers. A negative integer is a whole number that has a value less than 0. Negative integers are whole numbers. So negative 3, negative 5, negative 8, negative 10, etc. So they're different than negative numbers. So 0 is the center, like we talked about, the origin. The number line goes to infinity in both directions. So that basically means it never ends in both directions. The opposites of the counting numbers create the negative integers. So positive 1, opposite is negative 1. Positive 2, the opposite is negative 2, etc. Okay, so this set of integers is composed of the counting or natural numbers, their opposites, and 0. That's it. No fractions, no decimals. Those are negative numbers. They're not negative integers. Beginning with 0, numbers increase in value to the right. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, these are getting higher. Okay, they're just like if you want to think of it in terms of money, $3 is more than $1. $10 is more than $5. But as you go to the left, numbers decrease in value, so they are lower. They get smaller in value. When comparing numbers, the order in which they are placed on the number line will determine if it is less than or greater than another number. So this number here, so we've got negative 14 and 5. If you look at just the numbers, negative 14 and 5, 14 is bigger. But this is negative 14. Okay? So because it's negative, it is smaller. So if a number is to the left of a number on the number line, it is less than the other number. If it's to the right, then it is greater. So if we look at our number line up here again, let's get rid of that line. So 2 on a number line. So we start at 2 and we go to the left of 2. These numbers over here are all smaller than 2. If we start at 2 and we go to the right, these numbers are bigger than 2. So it doesn't matter where you start on the number line. Anything that's to the left is smaller, even if it looks like it's a bigger number. So 4 is bigger than 2, but it's negative 4, which means it's smaller. Go to the right, the numbers get bigger. Okay, so keep that in mind. So keep that number line image in your mind to help you remember that. Okay, so adding integers. So adding integers is the process of finding the sum, remember that's what the answer is when we add, of 2 or more integers. It may result in an increase or a decrease in value depending on whether the integers are positive or negative or a mixture. So there are rules for adding integers. You'll find out, just like in English, there are rules in math as well. So they're adding integer rules. So the first rule is the sum of an integer and its opposite is 0. So if we pick an integer, so let's say 4, its opposite is -4. So if we add 4 plus -4, and I'm putting brackets around the -4 here because otherwise it looks confusing. We've got a plus and a minus here. What does that mean? So in order to avoid that confusion, I'm just going to put brackets around my -4 so that we know that this is 4 plus -4. So we've got an integer, we've got its opposite, the answer is 0. Doesn't matter what the integer is. If you're adding the integer, so 100 plus -100, its opposite, the answer is 0. If we have -399 plus 399, I've still got my integer and its opposite, the answer is 0. Okay, so whenever you add an integer and its opposite, the answer will always be 0. Next rule, adding 2 positive integers always results in a positive value that is greater than both of the integers. So let's say we've got 2 plus 7. So these are both positive because there are no negative signs in front of them. So I can write it as +2 plus +7, but then you get 2 plus signs and it gets a little bit confusing. So generally for positive numbers, we don't put in that extra plus sign. So 2 plus 7 is 9. So 9 is bigger than 2 and it's bigger than 7. So the answer will be bigger than what you started with. So when you add 2 positive integers, your answer is always going to be positive. Next rule, adding 2 negative integers always results in a negative number that is smaller than the given numbers. So if I do -2 plus -7, my answer is still going to, not still going to be, sorry, my answer is still, my answer is going to be -9. So -2, I've got a negative plus a negative, my answer is going to be negative, and 2 plus 7 is 9. Okay, so, and if we look at these numbers on a number line, so here's my number line, 0, I'm going to the left, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8, -9. So remember, as I move to the left, the numbers or the value is smaller. So -2 plus -7 ends up with -9, which is smaller than both of them. The next rule, number 4, adding a positive number with a negative number is done by finding the difference. So difference, remember, means we subtract between the absolute value of both numbers, then the sign with the greater number will attach to the sum. Okay, we're going to get into this a little bit in a while. So if we have a positive number, so let's say 7, and we're adding a negative number, plus -4. Okay, what we have to do here is subtract the numbers. So it's going to be 7 take away 4, which leaves me with 3. Okay, and if you look at the absolute values, that means the number without the sign. So 7 and 4, 7 is bigger, it's positive, so that means my answer is positive. Okay, and we'll do more practice with that in a little bit. Number 5, adding integers with 0 will result in the same number. So any integer, doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, you add it with 0, you get that number. Okay, 6 plus 0 equals 6. 1,000 plus 0 equals 1,000. 100,000 plus 0 equals 100,000. -27 plus 0 equals -27. Okay, so whatever, because you're adding nothing, you're not changing anything. 0 is nothing, so -7 plus nothing equals -7. Nothing changes. Okay, so let's focus on adding 2 positive integers. So 4 plus 7. Start at positive 4. So we're going to use a number line. So here's my origin, 0. So to use a number line, we're going to start at positive 4 because our first number is 4. So here's 4 right here. And move 7 units to the right because we're adding 7. It's positive 7. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I end up at 11. So 4 plus 7 is 11. You could probably figure that out without using a number line, but this is how it works. Okay, add 2 negative integers. So we've got a negative 4 plus a negative 8. So we start this time at negative 4, right here. And because it's a negative 8, we're going, instead of going to the right, we're going to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we end up at negative 12. So negative 4 plus negative 8 is negative, 12. Don't forget to include the negative sign, because if you don't include the negative sign, then it's a positive 12, and negative 4 plus negative 8 is not positive 12. So your answer would be wrong. So be very careful. Okay, now what if you're adding a positive integer to a negative integer? So negative 3 plus 6. Well, we do, here's my erase. Okay, we're going to start at negative 3 on the number line. There's negative 3. And we've got a positive 6. So now we're moving to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We end up with positive 3. So negative 3 plus positive 6 gives me positive 3. Okay, subtract 3 from 6 and keep the positive. Oh, sorry, that's just showing you how to do it. So using a number line, you saw what I did. You start at negative 3, you go to the right 6, and you end up at positive 3. So subtract, if we do it the other way, subtract 3 from 6 and keep the positive sign, again giving positive 3. So 3 plus 6 equals, so basically we're doing the same thing here. So we're going to take the bigger number, which is 6, take away the smaller number, 3, so that will give us 3. 6 is positive, which means my answer is going to be positive. It's bigger, so positive 3. Add a negative integer to a positive integer. So we start on the number line, so 5 plus negative 8. I'm back up here. So 5 is where we're starting, and we're adding negative 8. Negative means that we have to go to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We end up with negative 3. So what was it? 5 plus negative 8 equals negative 3. So if we look at our numbers, 5 and the 8 without the signs, 8 is bigger. Okay, so what we would do is 8 take away 5 equals 3. 8 is bigger and it's negative, so that means our answer is negative 3. Okay, so negative 3 is our answer. Okay, add negative 7 plus 4 plus negative 5. So we've got 3 digits here to add this time. So when you have more than 2 digits, the best thing to do, the easiest way to do it, instead of doing negative 7 plus 4 first and then adding negative 5, the easiest way to do it is to group your positive numbers together, group your negative numbers together. Okay, so we've got a negative 7 and a negative 5. So I'm going to move them around, negative 7 plus negative 5. That will give me negative 12 because they're both negative. So my answer is going to be negative. So negative 12, and then I'm going to add 4. I don't have any other positive numbers to add. So now I've got negative 12 plus 4. So in this case, I need to subtract. So I'm going to take 12, subtract 4. 12 take away 4 is 8. I'm not finished because the answer is not 8, because this is negative 12. So if I look at just my numbers, so the absolute value, 12 and 4, 12 is bigger. Because 12 is the bigger number, and it's negative, that means my answer is going to be negative. Whoops. 12 taken away 4 is not negative 8. I shouldn't have put that there. Where's my eraser? Sorry. So my answer then, negative 12 plus 4 equals negative 8. Okay, so whichever number, the absolute value, whichever absolute value is bigger, then we take the sign of that number for our answer. Okay. Okay, subtract. So this is all the same thing here. Okay, never mind. Just going through it all step by step. Okay, so you can use a calculator to add integers. So let's see if this will actually work. Nope. Try it again. Nope. Doesn't want to work. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh. Let's try it over here. There we go. So you can use a calculator to add integers. So here is a calculator. Whoops, we can, oh, that's not what I want. All right, so here's a calculator. So if we're adding integers on a calculator, though, there's one thing that you have to remember. So on your calculator, there is a button. It's an integer button. Let's see if I can get this to move out of the way. There we go. And that button is right here on the bottom. So it's this button down here. It's got a plus. Let's see if I can draw on it. Oh, there we go. It's got a plus and a minus sign on it. That is your integer button. So if you were to add, let's say, negative 7 plus 4. Okay, so negative 7 plus 4. So the first thing you're going to do is hit the 7 key, and it'll appear in your display. Then to make that 7 negative, you need to hit the integer key, and it changes to negative 7 in your display. Then to add 4, you're going to use just the add key and punch in 4, and then equals, and your answer is negative 3. Okay, so let's try that with a different one. So clear it. So I'm back to 0. So let's try it with 10 plus negative 2. Okay, so I'm going to punch in my 10 first. There's my 10. And I'm adding. Next. And then I put the number in first, 2. And it's a negative 2, so I have to use that integer key to make it negative 2. And then hit equals, and my answer is 8. So 10 plus negative 2 equals 8. So if we go back to the way we do it manually without a calculator, look at the absolute values of the two numbers. We've got 10 and 2. So we're subtracting 10. Take away 2 will give me 8. 10 is bigger, it's positive, so my answer is positive 8, which is the exact same thing we got when we use the calculator. Okay, so keep that in mind when you are using a calculator. So you can use a calculator. Okay, so let's do a little bit of practice before we go with adding and subtracting, or sorry, adding integers. So here we've got, so let's start with this one here. We've got a positive plus a positive. So both numbers are positive. 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay, they're both positive, so my answer is going to be positive. Again, I don't need to put in that plus sign because they're positive numbers. Okay, positive 7 plus positive 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. Just straightforward addition. Okay, let's go down to this one here. We've got two negative numbers this time. Negative 7 plus negative 2. They're both negative numbers, so my answer is going to be negative, and I just add my numbers. 7 plus 2 is 9. Next one, negative 6 plus negative 7. They're again both negative, so their answer is going to be negative. 6 plus 7 is 13. So the tricky part comes in when we're doing something like this first one up here on the top, -2 plus +8. They're different. One's a negative, one's positive. So what we have to do here is subtract our numbers. Big number, take away the smaller number. 8 take away 2 is 6. And then we have to figure out what sign do we need with that 6. So the 8 is bigger than the 2. It's positive, so our answer is +6. Let's look at okay, down here. -7 plus +1. So again, we've got different signs. One's positive, one's negative. So we're going to subtract the numbers first. 7 take away 1 is 6, the absolute values. Then we have to look at our numbers. We've got just a 7 and a 1. 7 is bigger than 1. It's negative. So our answer is going to be -6. Okay, so if the signs are different, you have to figure out what sign you need in the answer. If the signs are the same, it's easy. So we'll do one more example before we go. So -6 plus +9. So we're going to subtract our numbers first, the absolute values. 9 take away 6 is 3. Then we look at our numbers. 9 is bigger, it's positive, so our answer is +3. Okay, so that's all we have time for today. When we meet again on Thursday, we'll do a little bit more practice with adding integers, and then we're going to move on to subtracting integers. All right, so that's it for our class today. Good luck with that. Do the support question and then move on to key question, where is it? Key question number 1, and try that one. Take your time as you're doing it and focus on what you're doing. Okay, so that's it for our class today. Miigwech, and I'll talk to you again on Thursday.